In this video, I'm going to show how to tie the bowline. This knot, when I was first learning how to tie knots, this one confused the heck out of me. So I am going to try to teach it in a way that'll make it easier for people who are first learning. All right, you need to start this knot by tying a loop. You need to understand some rope anatomy to follow along with this, but go learn some rope anatomy with some other pictures and stuff and understand what I'm saying. You're gonna start by tying a loop. You want your working end to be long enough to complete all the motions of your knot. So give yourself a fair amount of working end or tail, okay, and make a loop. Now, my loop, the strand of my working end is on top. So I'm going to show you how to tie this knot but the strand's on top. If you tie your loop this way, notice now the strand to my working end is on the bottom and it changes everything. Everything will be mirrored from what I'm about to show you. And I'll show you this way later. But right now I'm going to make my loop like this and the strand is on top. It's also going out to the left. You see I could make it this way. Now the strand is on the bottom going out to the right. Now the strand is on top going out to the right. You see how I'm setting up this rope and I'm paying attention. This will keep you from making a mistake if you know what you're doing while you're doing it, all right? So strand's on top, working end is on top, going out left. All right, and you're gonna take your working end, you're gonna come under that loop that you just made. Now, pinch this configuration and kind of hold it in place because this is where you set the diameter of your loop. You can make a very small loop bowline, or you can make a longer looped bowline, all right? And it's easy to change that as you want to in the next step here too. So we've got our loop, we come under our loop, in this case, because my strand's on top. So I'm coming under my loop here. And then I'm going to take my running end and I'm going to go around the standing part, go around 180 degrees, go back into my loop. So I'm coming down, going around, turning around 180 degrees, going right back where I came from into the loop. And that's the bowline, okay? As I said, if you start with a loop going the other way, it'll be totally different, okay? Like, let me see here. So, let me try to do it this way. There we go. Now I'm out this side. Let's do the strand underneath. If my running end is underneath in the loop, then instead of coming from up through, from the bottom, I have to come in this case, I have to come from up top. So you want to come in with your working end opposite whichever side. In this case, the running end is on the bottom here, so I'm going to come in from on top. And as I come in from on top, now the rest is going to be the same. It's going to feel different because I'm tying it with my other hand, but I'm going to go around the standing part, go 180 degrees, and not go in like that, but you got to go all the way around the standing part and go 180 degrees. Okay? And it looks like it's backwards, but I tied it a different way. It's still a bowline, okay? It is still a bowline. I'm going to talk about this now right here. This strand coming out is on the outside of my loop. In order to set up for that's fine as far as the knot is concerned. It's a functional bowline. But in order to set up for a Yosemite finish, you want to get in the habit of getting this strand, this tail, on the inside of the loop. It's very easy to fix that. All you do is you pull the tail out and you wrapped the standing part one way. Well, you just wrap it the other way. Just undo the way you did it and go the other way. Go back into the loop. And now you see the tail is on the inside of the loop. And you might think, well, why does that really matter? It is a little bit cleaner. It also sets up for what we call the Yosemite finish. And I'll show you that. I'll actually show that in a different video. I want this to just be about the function of the bowline. I talked about setting the diameter of your loop. So let's talk about that a little more. Here's the loop to start with. I come from under because it's opposite. Okay, it was on top. So The strand is on top starting out, so I'm going to come from underneath. All right, I go around the standing part and back through the loop. I'm not making it very easy for you to see. I apologize. All right, right here, I can set the diameter of my loop. If I pull, try to make it so you can see. If I pull this, it closes my loop up and I just pull all that slack out. Notice now I've got a nice long tail and a small diameter loop. If I open it up though, I open that up, now I've got a much wider loop, or a bigger loop and a small amount of tail. You can also feed in slack from the running end, although it is a little bit harder to do this, but you can feed slack in with your running end and slowly work that through the knot. As long as you keep everything kind of dressed, you can just reset it. And to dress it means that you keep it in place here, and then you just reset it by tugging on it. To really set this knot, pull the standing part opposite these two parallel parts. What you're doing is you're basically just creating a bite that goes around the standing part and goes right back in the loop the way it came out. So you got one strand here and two strands here, and you just pull them opposite each other, and that'll set that knot nicely. Okay, so that's the bowline. That's how we adjust our loop diameter. One more thing I got to talk about this knot is that it will come undone on you. So if you're using it for any kind of critical loading, like tying into a harness or rigging or something like that, you have to back it up. You have to back it up with either a Yosemite finish or an overhand knot in the loop. And with this case, I really don't have enough. I really don't have enough tail to even do that. So let me work out some of that. Okay, I give myself a little bit more tail, and I am going to make my double overhand knot. You have to back it up with a double overhand knot or a Yosemite finish. I'll show a Yosemite finish in another video. That's how you back up the bowline. One more thing. If I'm going to, this is what really starts to confuse people. If you're not confused yet, then maybe you'll be confused in a minute here. Let's go over tying the bowline around something. Okay, so it's easy enough to make the bowline and then simply clip a carabiner to it, right? So we make our bowline here, and we can easily clip a carabiner into that loop. But if I was going to try to tie around this ring, I have to understand the mechanics of the knot a little bit better in order to make that happen. So here's the rule. When you get into the running bowline is tying a bowline around its own standing part. So you're tying a bowline around itself. It gets really confusing if you don't understand this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with just the bowline here. And I'm not going to go over the running bowline in this video. For just a regular bowline, the function of the knot works like this. You make your loop first outside of the object that you wish to tie around. In this case, we're going to tie around the ring. I make my loop outside the object. I pass my working end through the object at this point, and then I do my functions of the knot, okay? Going up through the loop, around the standing part, back into the loop. Okay? And now I have captured my object inside of my loop. Okay? That's very important. The whole thing about the rabbit comes out of the hole, goes around the tree, back into the hole, I mean, that just did not help me at all. It confused me. So again, I make my loop outside the object, go around my object, because again, this is where I'm setting my loop. This is not my loop. This is my loop. This is my fixed loop. This is my end result product. This is just what I have to tie for the knot, okay? So you can make this really small. You don't need to make this really big, because it'll just confuse you. You have two loops that look kind of the same size, and you don't know which one you're working with. Make this one small, all right? That's your starting one. Then you go through your object, all right? Then we come up through, around our standing part, back through, okay? Tail on the inside of the loop. If you do it the other way, you go through the standing part the other way, you'll get your tail on the outside, that's okay, but you won't be able to tie a Yosemite finish very well with that. So that's for another video. All right, one more time, doing this with the other hand, starting with the strand on the bottom, okay? For those of you who are weirdos and you tie it with your left hand, all right? This is how you would do it. You go through you make your loop with your left hand this time, go through your object, go up and around, excuse me, I almost did that backwards, you see, because I'm so used to tying it the other way. I'm on the bottom here, so I actually have to come in from on top. So I come in from on top, and then I go around my standing part, and I always am tempted when I'm tying it this way, I'm always tempted to go this straight here. That would be wrong. That would mess everything up. I have to go completely around my standing part and come up the way I came in at first, okay? So if you practice tying it with the other hand just to really challenge yourself, see if you really understand the way the knot is working. And that's how you tie the bowline.